The 1970s were a golden hour for R&B. Voices grew bolder, grooves grew deeper, and albums stopped being just collections of songs and started feeling like lived-in stories. Somewhere between candlelit bedrooms and city streets humming after midnight, these records changed how soul sounded and how it felt. Tonight, we are counting down 15 R&B albums that still move hearts decades later. Number 15, I Want You by Marvin Gaye.
That's alright.
This is where our journey begins, with an album that feels less like a performance and more like a private confession. Released in 1976 on Tamla, Marvin Gaye was already a legend, but here he chose intimacy over protest, subtlety over spectacle.
I want you right way, babe.
At this stage of his career, he was restless and searching, channeling desire, vulnerability, and longing into something almost cinematic. Behind the scenes, this record marked a shift. Marvin collaborated closely with Leon Ware, and together they crafted a sound that floated rather than punched. It did not dominate the charts the way his earlier work had, and some listeners did not know what to make of its softness at first.
Don't play with something you should cherish.
But that restraint was the magic. Listening now, you can almost picture a dimly lit room, curtains half drawn, the city breathing outside the window. The strings glide, the rhythm simmer, and Marvin sings like he is leaning in close, trusting you with a secret. Over time, this album became a blueprint for modern slow jam R&B.
You wanna care,
influencing generations of artists who learned that sensuality could whisper instead of shout. If that was R&B at its most tender and intimate, the next album steps into something earthier, heavier, and impossible to ignore. Number 14, Call Me by Al Green.
call me, losing your love.
Released in 1973 on High Records, this album captured Al Green at the precise moment when his voice felt like it could melt walls. By this point in his career, he was already a soul superstar. But this record showed just how effortless his power could be when paired with restraint.
All in the way you feel.
The production, guided by Willie Mitchell, left space for every breath, every falsetto sigh, every quiet plea. There is a fascinating tension running through this album. While the songs sound warm and inviting, Al Green himself was beginning to wrestle with fame, faith, and the pull between the sacred and the romantic. That inner conflict gives the music a subtle ache, even when the melodies feel sweet. It never shouts, it seduces. Drop the needle and you are instantly transported to a slow southern evening. The air is thick, the lights are low, and every note feels like it was meant just for you. This album did well on the charts, but its real legacy lives in how it taught future R&B singers the power of understatement. Smooth without being slick, emotional without being messy, it remains one of the genre's most replayable experiences. And if that was soul at its smoothest and most graceful, the next album brings a little more grit, a little more fire, and a whole lot more street-level truth. Number 13, Curtis by Curtis Mayfield.
While the judge and his jury.
Released in 1970 on Curtis Records, this album arrived at a turning point not just for Curtis Mayfield, but for R&B itself. Having stepped away from the Impressions, Curtis used his solo debut to speak directly and unapologetically to the world around him.
Let's go. Everybody praying.
The sound was smoother than a protest chant, but the message cut just as deep. This record did not rely on big vocal acrobatics or flashy production. Instead, Curtis leaned into falsetto clarity and thoughtful arrangements that let the lyrics breathe. At a time when America was wrestling with civil rights, war, and identity.
Police and their backers.
These songs felt like letters written to the streets. They were personal, but they were also communal. Listening today, you can almost feel the early 70s city air, hot pavement, open windows, and radios humming from every apartment. Curtis sounds calm, but there is urgency in every line, as if he knows people are really listening now. The album performed strongly and established him as a voice of conscience in soul music.
But they keep talking about nowhere.
Its influence echoes through socially aware R&B and hip-hop alike, reminding artists that groove and truth can share the same space. If that was R&B with its eyes wide open and its mind engaged, the next album dives deeper into emotion, ambition, and a sound that felt like the future arriving early. Number 12, Young, Gifted, and Black by Aretha Franklin. Released in 1972 on Atlantic Records, this album found Aretha Franklin standing tall in her power, fully aware of who she was and what her voice meant to the world. By this point, she was already crowned the Queen of Soul, but this record showed her expanding beyond the familiar territory that made her famous. It was confident, politically aware, and emotionally fearless. The album took its title from a phrase that carried enormous cultural weight at the time, and Aretha treated that responsibility with grace rather than heaviness. There were moments of celebration, moments of reflection, and moments where her voice felt like a sermon delivered straight to the heart. Some tracks were not massive chart dominators, but they carried a deeper resonance that outlasted radio cycles. Close your eyes and you can picture a proud, forward-looking Black America. Dressed sharp, walking with purpose, radios playing in barbershops and living rooms alike. Aretha's voice rises not just to entertain, but to affirm. Over the years, this album has grown in stature, often cited as one of her most meaningful works. It reminds us that R&B in the 70s was not just about love, but about identity, pride, and vision. And if that was so rooted in strength and dignity, the next album pulls us into something rawer, funkier, and unapologetically real. Number 11, There's a Riot Going On by Sly and the Family Stone, released in 1971 on Epic Records. This album sounded like nothing else on the radio at the time, and that was exactly the point. Sly Stone had already helped invent a brighter, more optimistic version of funk, but here, he turned inward. The joy was still there, but it was buried under haze, tension, and uncertainty. This was R&B and soul music reflecting a country that felt tired, fractured, and confused. The making of this album was famously troubled. Long studio nights, heavy isolation, and experimental recording techniques gave the music its murky, almost claustrophobic feel. Drum machines replaced live kits on some tracks, and vocals often sounded distant, as if they were coming from another room. Critics were divided at first, but time has been more than kind to this record. Listening now, you can almost feel the weight of the early 70s pressing down. The colors are darker, the grooves slower, and the optimism feels cautious rather than carefree. Yet, that honesty is what makes it powerful. The album topped the charts and quietly reshaped what funk and R&B albums could express emotionally. Its influence stretches into hip-hop, neo-soul, and alternative R&B. Proving that vulnerability and discomfort can be just as revolutionary as joy. If that was soul music staring straight into the chaos of its moment, the next album lifts us into something smoother, more romantic, and impossibly elegant. Number 10, Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye.
Let's get it on.
Released in 1973 on Tamla, this album arrived at a moment when Marvin Gaye was redefining what mainstream R&B could say out loud. Coming off the social weight of his earlier work, he pivoted towards something deeply personal and unapologetically sensual. It was a bold move, and one that permanently changed the sound of soul music. There is an interesting contrast at the heart of this record. While it is remembered for its intimacy and warmth, Marvin originally envisioned it as a spiritual project. That push and pull between the sacred and the physical gives the album its lasting tension. Some songs climbed the charts instantly, while others took time to reveal their depth beyond the bedroom reputation.
Baby, let's get it on.
Listening today feels like stepping into a slow-burning summer night. The grooves are unhurried, the vocals are tender, and every note seems to glow. This album became one of the defining R&B statements of the decade, influencing how artists approached romance, vulnerability,
Oh, baby, let me get it on with you right now.
and honesty in music. Decades later, it remains a masterclass in mood, proving that confidence and sensitivity can live in the same song. And if that was R&B at its most intimate and seductive, the next album takes a turn toward lush sophistication and quiet heartbreak. Number 9, I'm Still in Love with You by Al Green.
Thinking about you, girl.
Released in 1972 on High Records, this album captured Al Green in full command of his emotional range, right at the height of his commercial and artistic peak. Coming off a string of successes, he did not try to reinvent himself here. Instead, he refined everything that already worked, turning warmth, vulnerability, and longing into something timeless. Behind the smooth exterior, there was quiet tension. Al Green was becoming a star faster than he could emotionally process, and that uncertainty slips into the cracks of these songs. The production stays elegant and uncluttered, letting his voice carry the weight.
Everybody help me sing, everybody sing.
It performed beautifully on the charts, but its deeper impact came from how it slowed listeners down and invited them to feel instead of dance. Put this album on, and you can almost see the soft glow of a living room lamp. Couples swaying close, conversations trailing off as the music takes over. Al sings like he is confessing rather than performing, and that honesty is what makes it linger.
Oh, that I'm still in love, so I'm in love with you.
Over the years, this record has become a cornerstone of romantic soul, influencing generations of singers who learned that vulnerability can be just as powerful as volume. If that was love spoken in a whisper, the next album turns the volume back up, blending ambition, drama, and a sound that pushed R&B towards something bigger. Number 8, Inner Visions by Stevie Wonder. Released in 1973 on Tamla, this album arrived during a period when Stevie Wonder was no longer just a prodigy, but a visionary fully in control of his art. Free from creative restrictions and hungry to say something meaningful, he used this record to blend personal reflection with social awareness, all wrapped in melodies that felt both futuristic and deeply human. What makes this album remarkable is how seamlessly it balances complexity and accessibility. Stevie handled much of the instrumentation himself, layering synthesizers with organic rhythm in a way that felt revolutionary at the time. Some radio programmers were unsure how to categorize it, but listeners immediately connected. It spoke to daily struggles, spiritual searching, and quiet hope without ever sounding preachy.
Two people vow to stay.
Listening now feels like stepping into the early 70s with fresh ears. The city feels alive, but so does the inner world. You can almost picture someone riding late-night public transit, headphones on, lost in thought as these songs play. The album earned critical praise and commercial success, and it changed expectations for what an R&B album could achieve artistically. Its influence still echoes through modern soul, proving that introspection and groove can move together beautifully. If that was soul music looking inward with clarity and courage, the next album stretches outward, lush, dramatic, and filled with cinematic emotion. Number 7, Superfly by Curtis Mayfield.
There's a scene going strong, a lot of things going on.
Released in 1972 on Curtin Records, this album was born as a soundtrack, but it quickly outgrew that label. Curtis Mayfield approached the project with a sharp sense of purpose, determined not to glorify street life, but to expose its costs.
Taking all that he can take, gambling with the...
At a time when funk and soul bumbus kaishibu were increasingly tied to flashy imagery, he chose nuance and truth instead. What makes this record so striking is the contrast between sound and subject. The grooves are smooth, seductive, and instantly catchy, while the lyrics quietly critique addiction, desperation, and survival.
To move a lot of blow, ask him his dream, what does it mean? He wouldn't.
That tension confused some listeners at first, but it is exactly what gave the album its power. It sold incredibly well and reached audiences far beyond the film itself. Listening today, you can almost see the city blocks after dark, neon lights flickering, cars rolling slowly past corner stores. The music pulls you in, but Curtis's voice keeps reminding you to look closer.
Do it, Dad. Superfly.
This album reshaped how soundtracks could function, influencing hip-hop, neo-soul, and socially conscious R&B for decades. It proved that you could make music that moved bodies while still challenging minds. If that was soul with a sharp eye on the streets, the next album softens the edges, drifting into romance, elegance, and a voice that feels like silk against skin. Number 6, That's the Way of the World by Earth, Wind & Fire. Released in 1975 on Columbia Records, this album marked the moment Earth, Wind & Fire fully stepped into their role as architects of joy, unity, and cosmic soul. By this stage, the group had honed a sound that blended R&B, funk, jazz, and spirituality into something uplifting without ever feeling lightweight.
That's the way, all the way.
This record felt like a mission statement delivered with a smile. What many people forget is that this was also tied to a film, but much like Superfly, the music completely outgrew its original purpose. The band leaned into themes of balance, perseverance, and inner strength at a time when audiences were craving something hopeful. The album topped the charts, but more importantly, it found a permanent home in people's lives. Listening now feels like standing in a wide open space, sunlight on your face, worries temporarily set aside. The harmonies soar, the rhythms glide, and everything feels intentional and warm. This album influenced countless artists who wanted to blend positivity with groove, proving that feel-good music could still be deep and meaningful. If these 70s R&B classics are bringing back memories or opening new doors, give this video a thumbs up. It helps keep this music alive, and we have 5 more incredible albums still ahead. And trust me, as strong as this one is, The next album dives deeper into emotional truth and raw vulnerability. Number 5, Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder.
Assimilated.
Released in 1996 on Tamla, this album felt less like a record and more like a universe. Stevie Wonder was at the absolute peak of his creative powers, and instead of scaling things back, he expanded in every direction. This was a double album packed with joy,
On my dead end street.
pain, wonder, and everyday observations that somehow all felt personal. The ambition behind this project was enormous. Stevie took his time, delayed the release, and followed his instincts rather than trends. When it finally arrived, it dominated the charts and critics alike. But more importantly, it embedded itself into daily life.
Like to come with me to LA.
These songs played at family gatherings, on car radios, and through open windows in the summer. Listening now feels like flipping through a photo album of the 70s. You can see kids playing outside, lovers arguing and reconciling, people trying to make sense of the world while still dancing through it. The album's legacy is unmatched, shaping generations of musicians across genres. It proved that R&B could be expansive, universal, and deeply human all at once.
Dog food now.
That was a very distressing line to a lot of people.
If that was soul music at its most all-embracing, the next album strips things down, turning inward and speaking directly to the heart. Number 4, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye.
You know we've got to find a way.
Released in 1971 on Tamla, this album marked a moment when Marvin Gaye stopped asking for permission and started speaking his truth. Coming from an artist once known primarily for smooth love songs, this record was a bold and deeply personal statement about the world around him.
What's going on? Hey, what's going on?
It reflected grief, confusion, and hope during a time of social unrest. The label initially resisted the project, unsure if audiences wanted something so reflective and serious. Marvin pushed forward anyway, trusting his instincts. That decision changed everything. The album flowed as a complete experience rather than a collection of singles, inviting listeners to sit with it from start to finish. Listening today still feels powerful.
Down every fall. People, you know.
You can almost imagine the radio crackling late at night, voices from the streets blending with Marvin's gentle questions. His delivery is tender but firm, as if he is asking you to think, not argue. The album achieved massive success and reshaped how R&B artists approached albums as cohesive works. Its influence remains everywhere, reminding us that soul music can be both beautiful and brave.
Don't punish me with brutality.
And if that was R&B challenging the world with empathy and grace, the next album turns toward faith, vulnerability, and a voice searching for something higher. Number 3, Let's Stay Together by Al Green. Released in 1972 on High Records, this album arrived at the exact moment Al Green's voice became unavoidable. He was no longer just a rising star. He was the sound of intimacy itself. With Willie Mitchell's understated production behind him, Al leaned fully into warmth, patience, and emotional honesty, creating a record that felt timeless even on day one. There is quiet drama beneath the surface of this album. While the songs celebrate devotion and tenderness, Al himself was beginning to feel the strain of fame and inner conflict. That push and pull gives the music depth. It never feels forced or flashy. Instead, it feels lived in, like emotions you recognize immediately. The album performed extremely well, anchoring Al Green as one of the defining voices of the decade. Listening now feels like stepping into a slow Sunday morning, Sunlight filters through curtains. The world feels unhurried, and every note lands gently. This album influenced countless R&B singers who learned that softness could be powerful.
As long as I can hold you, baby, I wanna squeeze.
Its legacy lives on whenever love songs choose sincerity over spectacle. And if that was soul built on commitment and closeness, the next album brings us something broader, grander, and spiritually uplifting in a ways only one group could deliver. Number 2, All in All, by Earth, Wind & Fire. Released in 1977 on Columbia Records, this album captured Earth, Wind & Fire at a moment when their sound felt limitless. By this stage, they were not just a band, but a movement, blending R&B, funk, jazz, and spirituality into music that felt universal. This record refined that vision, balancing deep grooves with messages of hope, unity, and transcendence. There was real intention behind this album. Maurice White wanted the music to lift people above everyday struggles, offering something almost celestial without losing its human warmth. Some critics at the time underestimated its depth, focusing on its polished surface, but listeners understood immediately. The album soared on the charts and it became a fixture in homes, parties, and quiet personal moments alike. Listening today feels like stepping into a celebration that welcomes everyone. The rhythms feel expansive, the harmonies stretch skyward, and the energy feels clean and empowering. You can almost picture a packed arena glowing with shared joy, or a living room filled with laughter and movement. This album influenced generations of artists seeking to combine positivity with sophistication. And as powerful as it is, nothing quite prepares you for the emotional weight and cultural impact of the album still waiting at number 1. Number 1, Off the Wall by Michael Jackson.
And there ain't no room for you in this part of town.
Released in 1979 on Epic Records, this album marked the moment Michael Jackson stepped fully into his own as an adult artist. Fresh from leaving behind his childhood image, he partnered with Quincy Jones to create something joyful, sophisticated, and irresistibly human. This was not just a collection of hits. It was the sound of freedom and confidence colliding. Behind the scenes, there was pressure. Michael wanted to be taken seriously, and he poured everything into the performances. The result was an album that balanced dance floor energy with emotional depth. It dominated the charts, but more importantly, it changed expectations for what a modern R&B album could sound like heading into a new decade. Listening now feels like walking into a perfect late-night party. The lights shimmer, the floor is alive, and every song invites movement. There is happiness here, but also heart. This album influenced pop and R&B for generations, setting the stage for everything that followed. It remains a masterclass in groove, joy, and timeless appeal. From socially conscious soul to cosmic funk and intimate love songs, the 70s gave us R&B albums that still breathe today. Thank you for taking this journey through one of music's richest decades. If this countdown moved you, subscribe to keep the groove alive. And be sure to click the end screen to continue with our next video, the 15 best R&B albums of the 60s that will blow your mind as we explore more timeless classics and let the rhythm roll on.